Hello everyone, I am Dr. Nidhi Gupta and today we will be discussing about the parallel economy and its impact in Indian economy. So let's begin with this. So if we talk about parallel economy, it is also called underground economy or illegal economy, or even we call it shadow economy or unaccounted economy. So there are so many names of this particular economy. It is basically based on black money. Black money which can be the asset of any individual but not reported to the government. So parallel economy is a type of market where many rules of the money related to taxation and trade are not adhered to. So people are not following the rules related to tax and trade made by the government. And black money is also defined as the money that is generated by the activities that are not reported to the authorities. This money is not accounted to the fiscal authorities. What do we mean by this? That means the taxes are not paid on this money. It is a challenge for the economists to accurately measure or even estimate the size of black economy, and the parallel economy poses a serious threat to the stability and growth of the official developing economies of the world. So basically what do we mean by this? Simply we put parallel economy, it could be demonstrated as hidden economy of a country people, and all the people or business entities when do not show their exact income as per the government rules, the income comes under parallel economy. And this informal economy includes unreported income from the production of legal goods and services, either from monetary or barter transactions. So all the economic activities which would, generally be taxable, were they reported to the state or the tax authorities. So this is basically the meaning of the parallel economy. Let's move forward. Now, before discussing the India's black economy, I would like to discuss about the black market. So, the black market is a market where all commerce is conducted without regard to taxation, law, or regulation of trade. That's why we call it shadow economy. And it is generally smallest in the countries where economic freedom is greatest, and becomes progressively larger in those areas where corruption, regulation, or legal monopolies restrict legitimate economic activity. So that means where the people are having more freedom economically, the size of the black market or the shadow economy is large there. And goods acquired illegally may be cheaper than the legal market prices. This is but obvious. The supplier does not have to pay for production cost or any kind of tax. So we can easily get the products at cheaper rates in the black market. And this is usually the case in the underground market for stolen goods also. Like, criminals steal goods and sell them below the legal market price, but they do not give any kind of receipt or guarantee and so forth to the buyer. Now what do I mean by this? I would like to cite some examples. See, when we talk about this black market or the total money which is the part of this shadow economy, the amount of money laundered in the whole world is close to almost $2 trillion per year. So that means around $800 billion we are having the in this particular black market. And as per an estimate of International Monetary Fund, the IMF, the aggregate size of this underground and illegitimate market is between 2 to 5% of the world's gross domestic product. And the range of the activities that takes place in the black economies is vast, spanning from the innocuous t-shirts and shoes to the edgy and dangerous, like some examples I would like to quote: the drugs, guns and sex. Also, much of a black market is a legal business being conducted in an effort to evade tax authorities. Everybody wants to, evade the tax. And it is a challenge for economists to accurately measure or even estimate the size of many black economies. This is because they may be illegal and therefore are not reported to tax authorities or even to stock exchanges. The money that changes hands in such an economy are never recorded, and even no taxes are ever paid on such type of transactions. So here in this particular slide I have mentioned India's black economy, which is relatively small and shrinking. Why I am saying so? See, shadow economy, as the parallel black money economy is called, is broadly defined, as I've already discussed, the income derived from the economic activities that circumvent the government's regulation and taxation. And black money is a huge issue in India, but compared to other large economies as well as the industrialized countries, we are not that badly placed now. Like, here in this particular slide, I have mentioned the shadow economy as percentage of GDP, and I have taken the data from 1999 to 2007, and we can see the percentage of GDP. USA 8.6% of GDP, they have as their shadow economy. If you talk about the Japan, it is 11%, China 12.7, yes, India 22.2, it is pretty high. But if you compare it with South Africa, Italy, Brazil, and Bolivia, we are not that badly placed. Here, I have again mentioned the India's data, India's shadow economy as the percentage of GDP. So, although the finance ministry said the proportion of black money in the economy has risen, World Bank, they have, their figures suggest a small but steady decline over the years. So here I have mentioned the data of 2000. We were having 23.1% of the GDP as our shadow economy. In 2001, it is 22.8. There's some latest data I have also quoted here. In 2016, it has been decreased to 17.22%, and yes, in 2017 it was 14%, and even as per the predictions, in by 2025 it could be less than 13%. Now let's discuss some of the factors which are responsible for the growth of parallel economy. So first factor I have mentioned here, shortages. Now let's discuss how they are responsible. So whenever there are shortages as in war, drought, flood, curfew, government imposing price ceiling, it leads to black marketing, and huge profile are made in respect to goods having excess demand, and consumers are exploited, and it subsequently leads to parallel economy. So whenever any kind of natural calamity like drought, flood are there, or some situations like war or curfew, or even at times government is imposing price ceiling, so these all are leading to black market. And the another factor which I have mentioned here is inactive enforcement of tax law. Now, defects in the tax structure have been responsible for the existence of black money to a large extent. The tax on income and wealth is so high that it invites evasion. Everybody, almost 80% of the people, they want to evade some, tax amount if possible. And even in case of the indirect taxes, there is a large evasion of taxes. Now, the next factor is large public expenditure. Large increase in public expenditure, as pointed out in the Black Money Committee report of the National Institute of Public Finance and Policy, has led to parallel economy. Huge public spending has neither been efficiently administered nor properly targeted. So the result has been large leakages into the stream of unaccounted income again. Then the next factor is donation to political parties. Yes, it is again one of the factor. So political parties in India have been thriving on black money, and big business houses often donate huge amounts of black money to political parties, especially to the party who is in power. So this is again leading to the increase in the parallel economy in any of the economies. So here we are talking about Indian economy. So yes, donation to political parties is again one of the factor which is responsible for the growth of this shadow economy. Now, I would like to discuss the components of a black market economy. So, the first component which I have mentioned here is arms and ammunition. So, when we talk about this arms and ammunition, let's understand what do we, understand by this, and how it is giving its input or contribution in the parallel economy. So the black market supplies the demands for weapon, and that cannot be obtained legally, or may only be obtained legally after obtaining permits or paying fees for that. So this may be by smuggling the arms from countries where they are bought legally or stolen, or by stealing from arms manufacturers within the country itself, using some insiders for this. And those who may buy this way, we can include here some criminals, those who wish to use them for illegal activities. And illicit arms trafficking, it fuels civil wars, contributes to skyrocketing crime rates, and feeds the arsenals of the world's worst terrorists. So when we talk about small arms or light weapons, it account for an estimated 60 to 90% of the 1 lakh plus conflict death each year. So it was, it was mentioned in Small Arms Survey 2005, and tens of thousands of additional deaths outside of war zones. So they are also the weapons of choice for many terrorists. The second, I would like to discuss here the drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. So, the illegal drug trade is a global black market consisting of the cultivation, manufacture, distribution, and sale of illegal controlled drugs, including alcohol and tobacco. And as per the UN report, the global drug trade generated an estimated $1.13 trillion in 2018. So it's too huge. Please note, $1.13 trillion I was talking. And the black market trade of drug means a loss of 2.5 to 5% in government revenues, definitely. And this black market for illegal drugs accounts for 8% of the world's trade revenue, according to again UN. It is again estimated by United Nations. And best estimates conclude that government interdiction captures only 1/3 of the illegal drugs that smugglers try to bring into the country, the 2/3 of the narcotics that do cross the border supplied, an estimated $60 billion per year retail market in 2000. And as per WHO, the World Health Organization, they say that the trade in illegal drug is valued around 45 billion euros, approximately $66.2 billion, and represents some 10% of the pharmaceutical industry itself. So this is again huge, and it is one of the component of a black market economy. Now let's discuss about the third component, which is currency exchange. So money itself is traded on the black market, and this may happen for one or more of several reasons. Like one reason is difficult or illegal for the citizens to own much or any foreign currency. Then the second reason could be the taxes levied on exchanging the local currency with other currencies, either in one direction or both, like foreigners are taxed to buy local currency or the residents are taxed to buy the foreign currency. The next reason is currency is at times counterfeit. So, moving forward to the next component of a black market economy, and that is corruption and bribery. So, when we talk about this corruption and bribery, let's discuss. India is ranked 78 out of 180 countries in transparency, and international corruption perception index says that we are at number 78, and this index shows the total record of 180 countries. And the Hong Kong based political and economic risk consultancy limited has rated India, our country, the most corrupt country in Asia. In July 2008, Washington Times reported that nearly a fourth of the 540 Indian parliament members faced criminal charges including human trafficking, immigration rackets, embezzlement, rape, and even murder. And even after all this, we are having them as parliament member of our Indian constituency. So even I would like to quote here the example of UP Assembly, Uttar Pradesh Assembly 2017. Out of 403 elected MLAs, the 143 have criminal cases against them. So this corruption and bribery we cannot stop, and that's why this is one of the major or critical component of black market. Now the next component, let's discuss about the copyright media. What is that? So street vendors in countries where there is a little enforcement of copyright law, particularly in Asia and Latin America, they often sell deeply discounted copies of films, music CDs, and computer softwares such as video games, sometimes even before the official release of the title. So I am talking about here the pirated videos and audios and even movies. So a determined counterfeiter with a few $100s can make copies that are digitally identical to an original and face no loss in quality. And innovations in consumer DVDs and CD writers and the widespread availability of cracks on the internet for most forms of copy protection technology make this cheap and easy to do activity. So that's why again it is contributing in the black economy. Now the next component is Hawala. This is very important. What is Hawala? It is an alternative or parallel remittance system, and it exists and operate outside of or parallel to traditional banking or financial channels. So it was developed in India because the introduction of Western banking practices and is currently a major remittance system used around the world. And the components of this Hawala distinguish it from other remittance systems. These components are trust and the extensive use of connections such as family relations or the regional affiliations. So it makes minimal or often no use of any sort of negotiable instrument. Transfer of money take place based on communications between the member of a network of Hawaladar or the Hawala dealer. So basically, with the help of a number on the note, they do all the transactions under this Hawala. Then the next component is the Swiss bank accounts. So when we talk about the Swiss bank accounts or black money in Swiss bank, the Swiss Banking Association report 2018, it details bank deposits in the territory of Switzerland by nationals of the different countries. And when we talk about the top 5 countries which are having the huge investment, huge deposition in the Swiss banks. So number one is UK, then US, then West Indies, then France, and then Hong Kong. And now you would like to definitely know where we are, like where the India is. So India with $1,500 billion or almost $1.5 trillion, we ranked at 74. So these are the components of black economy. All of them are being already discussed here. Now let's move forward to the impact of black incomes on Indian economy. So here we'll be discussing how this black income is impacting the Indian economy. So presence of black money is responsible for the underestimation of GDP in India. Yes, because the large part of the total income gets diverted to the illegitimate sectors. So definitely the GDP is underestimated. Then due to the evasion of taxes on incomes, sales and purchase of goods and services, imports and exports, property deals, etc. So there is a huge loss of revenue to the state and the central government of the country. So when any individual is evading the tax on the income or any sale or purchase of goods and service, definitely it's a direct revenue loss of the government. And black money is responsible for the diversion of financial resources. What the diversion of financial resources to the purchase of real estate, jewelry, and any luxury housing. Then again, the black money is responsible for the transfer of funds from India to tax haven countries through clandestine channels. This, the unlawfully acquired money kept abroad is routed back to India by round tripping process. Like I have mentioned already, the money deposited in Swiss bank account. So we have again, lots of money in Swiss bank. Almost it was $1.5 trillion. And the black money has corrupted our political systems in most vicious manner. Ministers dole out favors of crores of rupees by accepting black money donations from businessmen. And this is again, a very demotivating factors for some people who believe in the Indian constitution and judicial system. So when we observe that the politicians, the leaders are also involved in this black money, and they are accepting the black money of the business people, and they are using them, that money, in their personal affairs and the matter related to the judicial system. So this is quite demotivating for the people of India. Now let's move to the some government measures which are taken by the government to curb the parallel economy. This is again very important. So first measure taken by the government is VDS, which is known as Voluntary Disclosure Scheme. The government has attempted several schemes to determine the quantum of black money. Like you can easily recall the demonetization which happened in 2016. So in this particular session we'll be discussing that also. So here we are talking about this VDS. So this particular scheme was introduced for the first time in 1951, and as a result of this there was a total disclosure of rupees 71 crores and total collection of rupees 11 crore at that time. And in July 2015, the Government of India opened a compliance window under the Black Money and Imposition of Tax Act 2015 for people to disclose their black incomes up to September 30, 2015. So it was one of the measures to curb the parallel economy, wherein people can come forward and declare their income. Now the next is measures to check tax evasion. So dealing with tax evasion has always been one of the most difficult challenge for the government of any country. and this tax evasion is done by individuals and business firms in different ways. So, India has tried to combat tax evasion by requiring an identification number for major financial deals, and this PAN is to be mentioned compulsorily in all transactions. So every individual is having PAN number. So you have to, whenever you are having any kind of transaction or any major financial deal, without mentioning your PAN number, you cannot do that. So this is, somehow helping in curbing the tax evasion. And then the third measure is economic liberalization. Some argue that the introduction of economic liberalization has detached the regime of controls and regulations, and thereby the extent of black money has been checked. Yes, it is true. And number 4, I have mentioned, which I have already discussed, the demonetization. So demonetization of high denomination currency. It has been tried in India in 1978 and 2016, but it has not succeeded as per the expectations. So when we talk about this demonetization, in November 2016, the government of India announced the demonetization of rupees 500 and rupees 1000 banknotes, and it also announced the issuance of new rupees 500 and rupees 2000 banknotes in the exchange for the demonetized banknotes. At that time, the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, he claimed that the action would curtail the shadow economy and reduce the use of illicit and counterfeit cash to fund illegal activities and also the terrorism. And this announcement of demonetization was followed by prolonged cash shortages in the weeks that followed, which created significant disruption throughout the economy, and people seeking to exchange their banknotes, they had to stand in lengthy queues, and several deaths were linked to the rush to exchange cash that time. So if we talk about the aim of action was fourfold that time: to curb the corruption, the counterfeiting, the use of high denomination notes for terrorist activities, and especially the accumulation of black money generated by the income that has not been declared to the tax authorities. So I hope you have now understood about this topic, and we have, in this particular session, we have discussed what the black market is, the shadow economy, what is its impact on Indian economy, and how the government is taking measures to curb this. So that's all about this particular lecture on parallel economy. Thank you so much.